illuminated by sirens as Scrappy was hurried inside the ICU. Pallid, unresponsive, and barely aware. He slumped unexpectedly, according to witnesses. There was only turmoil, terror, and frantic cries for assistance, no heartbeat, no movement. And Mama D's response upon her arrival rocked the facility as a whole. While medical professionals struggled to save her kid from the brink, she shoved past nurses and yelled for answers. However, the amazement didn't end there, since Bambi appeared a few minutes later. Additionally, the conflict between her then Mama D exploded in the waiting area. The two ladies who have loved Scrappy the most almost ran into each other as monitors screamed from inside his intensive care unit. An unadulterated, agonizing conflict. And then the unimaginable. The alarm went off, flatlined Scrappy. Physicians rushed in. Mama D passed out. Bambi sobbed. Social media was inundated with prayers from fans. And this is all we currently know. Scrappy is barely alive. Lil Scrappy had to travel a long and hard path to reach this breaking point before the flashing lights. The frantic 911 calls, the yelling in the hospital halls, and the life-or-death struggle within the intensive care unit, a journey fraught with years of tragedy, grief, stress, and emotional wounds that the public never actually witnessed. Scrappy has consistently been the tough one, the resilient one, the warrior who made it through the music industry, the streets, broken relationships, legal disputes, financial understood what it meant, and being reared by Mama D's intense yet tumultuous love, they were blind to how years of unhealthy partnerships, divorces, his tranquility was gradually eroded by custody disputes and reconciliations. They were unaware of the strain of attempting to co-parent in the harsh, glaring glare of reality TV, where every error becomes a meme. Every disagreement turns into a popular issue, and every vulnerable moment becomes a source of amusement for millions. And his roller was in the center of it all. Connection with Bambi is a roller coaster. Fierce love one moment, violent disagreements the next, separation, and then efforts to make things right for the children. Their romance has never been straightforward. It has always been noisy and intense. Bambi has wept for him, battled beside him, stood up for him, left him, returned to him, and attempted to create a tranquil life together, only for unresolved trauma and old scars to tear them apart once again. However, Mama D has always stood up for Scrappy, overly protective at times, dramatic, messy, and fiercely devoted at all times. Her love is loud, erratic, and often overwhelming, yet it stems from fear. Fear of losing her kid in the same manner that she has lost so many others to life, the streets, and poor decisions. Scrappy also found it difficult to handle such pressure. Being pulled between a wife who wanted him to be independent and a mother who would never let go, Scrappy continued to struggle to maintain his composure in order to be a parent, a provider, a company owner, and a performer. Fans were unaware of the full extent of the tension he was enduring, even as it silently accumulated behind closed doors. He never entirely recovered from the physical disabilities he had in an accident years ago. Money came with fame, but it also brought expectations, anxieties, and adversaries. He has openly struggled with depression, acknowledging that even in social situations, he felt alone. He has fought fatigue, always touring and shooting to maintain a steady existence. He has struggled with heartbreak from himself, his relationships, and his mother. And lately, the situation started to worsen once more. Scrappy was having a public argument with friends, going through difficult times on social media, and giving clues that something wasn't right. Behind the scenes, he was feeling overburdened by family strife, co-parenting disputes, financial strains, and physical health problems that were becoming more difficult to overlook. According to those close to him, he has been working non-stop, getting little sleep, and attempting to manage everything at once. He reportedly complained of feeling weak, lightheaded, and unlike himself, because that's what Scrappy does. He dismissed it. He endures agony until his body compels him to give up. Unfortunately, that's precisely what took place. His breakdown was not unexpected. It resulted from years of carrying too much, repressing too much, and engaging in too many conflicts, fights by themselves. It wasn't until the night they discovered him unconscious that his family realized how deep the fissures were. Mama D broke down at the hospital door because of this. She was afraid of losing her son, but she was aware that he had been enduring pain in quiet for a considerable amount of time. Bambi hurried and trembling because of this. Not only do they have children together, but love endures even after a marriage dissolves. She is more familiar with Scrappy's emotions than most, and she was more affected than she had anticipated by witnessing him struggle for his life. Guilt is carried by both women. They both have regrets. Both have made statements they wish they could retract. But none of it was important at that hospital. The drama subsided. Every disagreement was resolved. The only thing left was terror, unadulterated terror, with the knowledge that, long before his body ultimately stopped down, Scrappy had been operating on empty. The world is now discovering that behind every storyline, every star, and every strong facade may be broken by a human being. As soon as Scrappy stepped into that ICU bed, the true mayhem started. And like a thread that no one knew had been tugged too far, the truth about the last several weeks began to fall apart. Because although supporters believed Scrappy was getting better, sharing encouraging photos and grinning despite his suffering, despite claiming to be nice, the truth was far darker and more perilous than anybody outside his small group ever realized. Those that were near him, having been anxious for days. Scrappy was sleeping poorly, eating seldom, constantly worrying about personal matters, and silently managing respiratory troubles and discomfort in the chest. He continued to ignore it. He informed his buddies that he had persevered, informed his children that everything was well, and assured Mama D that he was fine. However, behind the scenes, the weight of everything striking him at once was causing him to collapse both physically and emotionally. He refused to slow down in the face of relationship strain, family disputes, financial strain, public drama, and health problems. And the night of his fall, when Scrappy was allegedly in the midst of a dispute with a loved one, a debate so intense and emotionally taxing that acquaintances claim he abruptly stopped talking, gripped his chest, and collapsed. This is where things get tricky though. The individuals in the room cannot agree on what transpired. Some claim that Scrappy passed out. Some claim that before he ever touched the ground, his breathing ceased. According to one source, he had been complaining from numbness and dizziness all day but had declined to visit the hospital. Another said that he had just ended a tearful phone conversation about co-parenting issues. And after that, there are rumors that Scrappy ignored obvious medical warning signals in favor of overstretching himself while managing enterprises, filming material, and juggling motherhood and public image. In any event, the room was immediately filled with terror. In an attempt to rouse him, people were yelling his name and shaking him. As soon as he didn't react, someone dialed 911. And while the operator attempted to do CPR on everyone, you could sense the fear in their voice. Scrappy was unconscious when paramedics got there. No movement, no pulse, no response. The EMTs treated him on the floor of the living room before hurrying. He was carried out on a stretcher. He had tubes already inserted and oxygen masks fastened to his face. At this point, the tale takes a drastic turn due to the first significant twist. Scrappy wasn't by himself when he got to the hospital. Mama D and Bambi both received alerts in a matter of minutes, but not from one another. Insider sources claim that Bambi, not Mama D, was contacted first, and something broke in Mama D when she learned that Bambi was aware of Scrappy's medical problem before she was. Hatred was not the source of the friction. Fear, protectiveness, and Mama D's perception that she was being driven out of the problem of her own son. Thus, all that worry erupted into accusations as she rushed into the hospital and ran directly into Bambi. "You were where? How come you received the call before me? Why did you not inform me of was the infant dying?" The waiting area exploded. The members of Scrappy's family were yelling. The nurses were stepping in. Since security knew who they were already keeping an eye on them from the corners, handling, shaking, and sobbing. Bambi vowed she wasn't attempting to conceal anything. It wasn't until someone on Scrappy's team contacted her to inform her that he had collapsed that she received the call. She claimed to have hurried over right away, hoping he wasn't lost. Mama D, however, was not listening for anything. She was taken by surprise, deceived, excluded, and the dispute nearly descended into violence for a brief moment. Scrappy, meantime, was coded in the care unit, his heart pounding, the flat spikes on the electrocardiogram. The two most significant people in his life were at odds with one another while doctors battled to save him. This is when the twist becomes more complex. That was just a few hours before Scrappy passed out, according to someone close to him. Stress affecting both sides of his family had caused Scrappy to have a major panic attack. Unresolved drama involving Bambi, conflict with Mama D, difficulties from co-parenting, and pressure to continue working, performing, and being tenacious for everyone. They claimed that he was afraid to stop because he thought that if he slowed down, everything would crumble. He allegedly said to a companion, "Everything stops if I stop." Everyone is now haunted by those words. I got to keep going. The most startling information of all was then revealed. The one Mama D purportedly disclosed in a private discussion that was subsequently made public. For weeks, Scrappy had disregarded the doctor's orders, She claims that he was instructed to refrain from overdoing it, to prevent stress, to avoid staying up late, and to return for more testing. He never scheduled the tests. She said that until his body made him confront reality, he believed he was strong enough to overcome anything. The twists continue while Scrappy lies comatose, connected to breathing tubes, equipment, and monitors. Physicians claim that there was more than one problem that led to collapse. Numerous factors contributed to it, including fatigue, stress, dehydration, heart strain, and even an underlying medical problem. Nobody was aware that he had. Doctors are unable to make any promises at this time due to the complexity of the case. The duration of his oxygen deprivation is unknown to them. They have no idea how his heart will react. They are unsure if he will stabilize completely or crash once more. They are unsure if the damage has already been done or if he is strong enough to heal. Additionally, Mama D and Bambi are left staring at the same reality as the world applauds and shares Scrappy was drowning, not just exhausted, and it wasn't seen until it was nearly too late. Scrappy's health remained extremely unstable, and as the night continued into the early morning, the atmosphere within the hospital became heavier, darker, and almost oppressive. And with each minute that went by, the individuals who were meant to be supporting him started to reveal more alarming facts, more secrets, and more anxiety. With taut expressions and clipped voices, nurses continued to enter and exit the intensive care unit, refusing to respond to inquiries and instead stating, "We're doing everything we can." It only served to increase the level of anxiety in the waiting area. Like a lioness, Mama D paced back and forth. Bambi sat still in a chair, palms pressed to her face, still trembling from the image of Scrappy flatlining earlier, murmuring prayers between angry obscenities, ready to rip the world apart to defend her baby. Then the next unexpected turn of events occurred. Using a clipboard, a hospital social worker entered the waiting room and inquired. The whole audience froze. "Which one of you is legally authorized to make medical decisions for Daryl Richardson?" Mom D moved forward right away. "Me, I'm his mom." However, Bambi steadied herself and stood as well. "My eyes are still puffy from weeping." "We're legally married," she muttered. "He still has me as his wife." In an instant, the room exploded. Mama D erupted, yelling that Bambi didn't deserve to make any decisions because she had deserted her son. Bambi retorted that she still loved Scrappy and had every right to defend him in a shaky but powerful voice. The social worker realized she had just thrown a bomb that may blow the whole thing apart. So she swiftly stepped aside as nurses and security came in to halt the yelling. Another shock came while they were arguing. The rest of the family was unaware of what Scrappy's sister disclosed. Months ago, Scrappy signed an emergency contact form, but neither Mama D nor Bambi were identified as the primary contact. It was Erica Dixon, the mother of his daughter. All of a sudden, phones began ringing. People were screaming, and Mama D almost passed out. Once more, instead of mourning, this time there was shock. How could Scrappy place Erica Dixon in that situation and keep it a secret? Why didn't he make the necessary updates? Why did he not have faith in his spouse? Why did he not have faith in his own mother? At that point, the second significant turn of events occurred. After being silent all night, Erica Dixon unexpectedly appeared at the hospital. Additionally, as she entered, the waiting area fell quiet. She hurried to the front desk with her hands shaking, her eyes red from sobbing, a sweatshirt on, and no makeup. Desperate for a response. Bambi tensed up. Mama D scowled. Erica didn't even glance at them as the entire room prepared for an explosion. As she said, her voice broke. "That's my daughter's father. I need to know if he's alive," the nurse said. "Describe the circumstances, the critical state, the resuscitation, the flatline, and the uncertainty." Erica sobbed, shaking violently, and said, "My baby." Erica sobbed for her father at that moment. "Please don't let him leave." The guy with whom she had argued co-parented, fought and healed for years, sliced through the room like a dagger. Mama D's rage subsided for a second. However, the calm was short-lived as the nurse divulged something that no one was ready to hear. When outlining the most recent medical condition, Scrappy's collapse most likely resulted from a triggering event earlier in the evening rather than a single medical problem. Something abrupt, something unpleasant, something emotional. His mother, his estranged wife, his ex, and the friends who had witnessed him falling were all progressively the center of attention. Everyone began to speculate in silence what had transpired before to Scrappy's fall. With whom was he arguing? What caused him to feel that way? Why did it take so long for someone to find him? The phones began to buzz once again, fans conjecturing, family members messaging, bloggers blogging each other with fresh knowledge, and just when things were getting out of control, the room took another turn. A communication thread that Scrappy had sent earlier that day was accessed by someone. Communications that suggested he had been working on a significant project behind the scenes. He wrote, "I'm tired. I'm really tired." In one message, he said, "I can't keep fighting everybody. I don't think anybody sees what I'm going through. I need a break," he said in his final, devastating message before passing out. "Let my children know how much I adore them. I'll make an effort to relax." All of a sudden, it became clear that this was more than a medical breakdown. This man was drowning in emotion. Then, like thunder, the last turn came. Out of breath, a doctor hurried in and said that Scrappy's blood tests showed something unexpected, indicating that his body had been under extremely severe stress for days or even weeks. His organs were having trouble. His heart ached. He had erratic blood pressure. His oxygen levels were plummeting. Long before he reached the hospital floor, whatever he had been forcing himself to endure was slowly killing him. And at this point, everyone in Mama D, Bambi, Erica, and his siblings had to confront a reality they had all disregarded in that room. Not only was Scrappy ill, but he was also broken, and the battle to preserve his life had just begun. When Atlanta's daybreak finally arrived, the fans, reporters, bloggers, and influencers eager for information on Lil Scrappy were already swarming the hospital parking lot. Additionally, within the hospital walls, the emotional outburst was just intensifying. The news that Scrappy had flatlined, been shocked back to life, and was still alive had gone viral, battling for life in the intensive care unit, and by the time the sun dawned, fear, bewilderment, and sorrowful conjecture were permeating the whole city. Already, social media was in total disarray. Hashtags such as "Pray for Scrappy Scrappy" with thousands of admirers sharing comments, prayers, old videos, and heartfelt tributes as if bracing themselves for the worst. Lil Scrappy's popularity exploded in a matter of minutes. Celebrities also expressed their opinions. Boozy, Young, Rashida, Candy, and even Love and Hip Hop cast members have posted prayers and pleaded with God to keep him alive. However, the vultures roused on the opposite side of the internet. Blogs started spreading rumors, assigning blame, and igniting conspiracies, and even attributing Scrappy's worry to specific family members. Bambi was blamed on one blog for the disaster. Another accused Mama D of pulling him into drama all the time. Online users began picking sides based on a third's assertion that Erica Dixon had been emotionally pushing him. It was a conflict. Team Mama D versus Team Bambi versus Team Erica. Totally unaware that those three women were standing only feet apart inside the hospital. Scared, weary, upset, and struggling to keep their composure while praying for the same individual. When a hospital employee's leaked TikTok videos started going viral, the situation became even more chaotic. A jumbled, unsteady video of Scrappy being hurried into the intensive care unit, surrounded by anxious medical professionals. Even despite the hospital's best efforts, it spread too quickly. Seeing Scrappy motionless and unconscious made me go into complete fear. Fearful and furious fans filled every comment area, demanding the truth, actual updates, and an outspoken voice. Then someone did. Mama D went live from the hospital because she could no longer handle her sadness. "My baby is fighting for his life," she said to the world, her hands shaking, her eyes burning, and her voice wavering. "You people don't get it, so pray fervently for him." The live feed was uncensored, honest, and emotional, and we nearly lost him. Went viral right away, and millions of people saw her cry, break, and beg her supporters to stop spreading rumors and offer sincere prayers. However, Bambi became the focal point of the conflict if Mama D was the emotional core of the aftermath. A screenshot showing her sobbing in the corridor while sitting on the floor with her arms about herself was released. It should have been a private time, and it caused turmoil on the internet, with people who had previously despised her now standing up for her. Fan pages started debating, with some saying she had no right to be there. Bambi was too occupied inside the hospital, waiting for developments that weren't arriving quickly enough, so she didn't reply when the comments grew nasty. Erica Dixon, who had always made an effort to avoid the issue, was unexpectedly drawn into it when fans learned that she had visited the hospital. While some supported her, claiming she had every right to be there as Scrappy's child's mother, others accused her of attempting to interject herself. However, what truly went viral on the internet, a leaked audio tape of Mama D and Bambi bickering in the background and yelling things like, "You abandoned him," was purportedly recorded by someone in the waiting area. "You have no idea what I did in private." The audio confirmed the anxiety as it spread like wildfire. Blogs started misrepresenting the situation, saying Bambi and Mama D were physically separated by what everyone already felt was boiling up in that hospital. Security, some reported, Erica intervened between them. But others alleged the altercation almost descended into violence. All of this did not improve the situation. Instead, it served as fuel to the already raging emotional fire on the internet, and the fans were also in pain during it all. Many grew up watching Scrappy on Love and Hip Hop, where they saw him fall in love, fall apart, repair, break again, and yet attempt to be a father, a son, a friend, and a provider. Witnessing him struggle for his life seemed intimate to them, and the sadness swept over social media. However, the hospital's brief, icy remark was the greatest emotional blow. The patient is still hospitalized. Everyone was devastated by those words. Critical condition. The next 24 hours are vital. Heartbreak exploded in the comment area as people lit candles, made modifications, posted video from his early musical days, prayed, begged, sobbed, and sent lengthy, heartfelt remarks. Fans saw this as family rather than just a celebrity battle for survival. Was someone they had seen develop, battle, endure, and fight for so long that losing him seemed unimaginable. And when the internet pandemonium subsided, one devastating reality emerged. Nobody, not even Mama D, Bambi, Erica, or Fansel was ready for how close they were to losing Scrappy and how much Yvonne, though everyone believed the worst was past, there was still unresolved suffering in his life. When Scrappy's heart began to settle, the doctors discreetly told him he had a chance. At last, instead of yelling across a waiting room, Mama D, Bambi, and Erica Dixon were sitting in uneasy calm. The family was devastated and the hospital staff was concerned when the scenario took a dark, unexpected, and unsettling turn. It began when the doctor asked for Scrappy's emergency contact, when he emerged from the intensive care unit with a somber expression on his face and a manila folder that he would not discuss in the corridor. Bambi, Mama D, and Erica all stood simultaneously for the first time. But rather than calling, "We need to speak privately, immediately," he remarked, shaking his head at any of them who came forward. At that point, everything fell apart. The doctor disclosed what Scrappy's body had been concealing behind the closed door of the consultation room. Collapse was something considerably more hazardous than fatigue, stress, or thirst. It wasn't the startling aspect, though. That testing revealed evidence of an undiscovered heart condition, something inherited, something he may have been fighting for years without realizing. The physicians discovered evidence of something more in Scrappy's system, which was the twist that caused Bambi to gasp, Mama D to grab the table, and Erica's whole face to become pale, something that wasn't supposed to be there, something that may have caused the cardiac event, anything that could account for the abrupt decline, collapse, or They made it plain that this was not a straightforward medical emergency, but they weren't making any accusations just yet. The room fell hushed, possibly because of inducement. Mama D demanded right away to know who had given Scrappy anything and who had been with him before to his fall, who had last talked to him. At which point Bambi spoke the words that altered everything. He wasn't meant to chew by himself that evening. Someone was with him. Tears welled up in her eyes. Erica froze, Mama D's mouth fell, and someone departed before the paramedics arrived. Leaning forward, the doctor asked, "Who?" he inquired. Bambi swallowed hard and spoke a name that caused the whole room to scream in shock and bewilderment, a name no one had ever heard before. Anticipated hearing, but before she could say it again, a nurse abruptly entered the consultation room, gasping for air, her eyes wide, and her voice trembling as she spoke the, "You need to come now. Something's happening," were the words that made everyone flee. Nurses flocked to Scrappy's bed in a panic, and the family raced down the corridor as sirens went out in the intensive care unit. His blood pressure was falling once more, his oxygen levels were plummeting, and his cardiac monitor was flickering erratically. The most terrifying part of it all came when Scrappy's eyes briefly flickered open. His lips twitched in a moment of knowledge and cognizance, and the family leaned in close, afraid and frantic, praying he was saying, "I'm fine, I love you," or even "I can help." Instead, he spoke softly into the ear of the nurse who was holding his hand. The doctor wanted to hear one name, the same name Bambi had attempted to utter in the consultation room. The nurse gasped as she recognized the name of the person who was with him prior to his fall. Bambi staggered back as Mama D yelled. Erica covered her lips, and Scrappy's body shook before anybody could question what he had spoken. The family was pushed aside by the doctors as the sirens went off once again and the monitor flatlined for the second time. Shut the door, the screen darkened, and the hall became quiet. Now, the most important issue of all is, who did Scrappy name with his last breath? And why were they there the night he passed